Good day, students. So for this video, we will be discussing stocks and bonds. Okay. So for our learning objectives, we have the following. So at the end of the discussion, so hopefully the students are expected to illustrate stocks and bonds, distinguish between stocks and bonds. Third is to describe the different markets for stocks and bonds. And lastly, analyze the different market indices for stocks and bonds. Now, let's have first um, distinguish the difference between stocks and bonds. Ano ba yung pagkakaiba at ano yung pagkakapareho nilang dalawa? Okay? So we have stocks versus bonds. So when or in stocks, higher risk, or stocks has higher risk but with possibility of higher returns. Okay? For bonds, lower risk but lower yield. Okay? So mas mataas yung risk kapag kukuha ka ng stocks, pero mataas din yung return of investment. But sa bonds, mas mababa, though mababa yung risk, mababa din naman yung return of investment. Okay? Also, stocks can be appropriate if the investment is for long term. Okay? Since this can allow investors to wait for the stock prices to increase if ever they go low. Okay? Now, for the bonds, bonds can be appropriate for the retirees. Okay? Or for those who need the money soon. Okay? So, yun yung difference or yun yung difference ng stocks and bonds. Okay? Let's have the definition of terms that we will be encountering as we discuss stocks. Okay, so stocks muna tayo. So we have the stocks. So stocks is a share in the ownership of the company. Okay? So kung meron kang stocks in a particular company, so ang tawag sa'yo ay shareholder or stockholder. Okay? So shareholder and stockholder or stockholder is someone who owns shares of the corporation stock. Okay? So kapag meron kang stock sa isang kumpanya, you are the shareholder or the stockholder of the company. Kasi meron kang part ng share sa company. Okay? Also, we have the dividend. So dividend is the share in the company's profit. Okay? So say for example, in a year, nagkaroon ng dividend na say 2 million yung company. So kung ilan kayong shareholder or stockholder, okay, yun din yung division ng dividend na nagkaroon yung kumpanya. Okay? So hahati-hatiin yun ng mga shareholder or stockholder ng isang company. Next is the dividend per share. Okay? The dividend per share is the ratio of the dividends to the number of shares. Okay? So yung dividend mo or yung dividend per share will also depend on the number of shares you have in a particular company. Okay? Hindi siya yung tipong kung ilan kayong shareholder or stockholder ng company, yun yung division. Hindi po. Kung ilan yung dividend or kung ilan yung share mo sa company, yun din yung magiging division ng dividend na meron yung isang company. Okay? Also, we have the stock market. So, stock market is a place where stocks can be bought or sold. Okay? Kung familiar kayo doon sa mga stock market na mga application, okay? You have there, one of the examples that I usually encounter is the Forex. Then, yung trade option, so yung mga examples ng stock market. Okay? So market value is the current price of a stock at which it can be sold. Okay? So usually yung mga stockholder or shareholder, minsan inaabangan nila kung kailan mataas yung price ng stock. Kasi syempre kung mas mataas yung stock, mas madami or mas malaki yung profit na makukuha nila. Okay? Then stock yield ratio, this is also called as the current stock yield, is the ratio of the annual dividend per share and the market value per share. Okay? Okay, so par value is the share amount on the company certificate. So unlike market value, this is determined by the company and remains stable over time. Okay? May idadagdag lang pala ako dito sa stock market natin. So in the Philippines, the stock market is governed by the Philippine Stock Exchange. Okay po? So sila yung nagmamanage ng prices ng stocks sa Pilipinas. Okay? So just like Jollibee. So sa Jollibee, ang price per share is 248.40. Okay, this is as of this month, November. Ano po, based doon sa nakita ko from the Philippine Stock Exchange. So the price, if you want to invest or buy a share or be a shareholder or stockholder of Jollibee, so you have to have 248.40 pesos para makabili ka ng isang share. Okay? Then we also have the San Miguel Corporation. The San Miguel Corporation, the price per share is 121.4 pesos. Then for SM Investment Corporation, yung price per share nila is 976.50 per share. Okay, so these are just examples of the possible prices of per share if you want to be a shareholder or stockholder of this company. Or pwede din kayong hanap or mag-search or you can look at the Philippine Stock Exchange for the prices of the companies that we have in the Philippines if you want to be a shareholder or stockholder of the companies. Okay? Now, we have this common and preferred stocks. Okay? So these are actually two types of the stocks. Okay? So these are two types of stocks. We have the common and preferred stocks. Yung common stock is usually entitles the owner to vote at shareholders meeting and to receive dividends. So kapag common stock yung binili mo, you have a voting right. Okay? In the company. So meron kang say, okay, sa kumpanya. Then if you have a preferred stock or yung preferred stock yung pinili mo instead of common stock. So preferred stock generally does not have voting rights. Okay? But has higher claim on assets and earnings than the common shares. Okay? So, though wala kang say sa kung ano yung takbo ng kumpanya, meron ka namang higher. Okay? Higher earnings compared sa mga merong common share sa company. Okay? So, in this case, we have, or let us determine the differences and commonality between this common and preferred stock. Okay? So ownership in a company, so you are both part of the owner or you are shareholder, stockholder of the company. Okay? So meron kayong ownership sa isang company. Since you have, or since you are a shareholder, okay, or stockholder. Then, with regards to the voting rights, so sinabi ko na kanina, common stock, merong voting rights, pero sa preferred, or yung mga merong preferred stock sa isang company, wala silang voting rights. Okay? Also, for the dividend payments, kung sa common stock ka, it depends on the company. Okay? It depends on the company. Pero kung sa preferred stock ka, okay, merong kang makukuha. Okay? Base nga doon sa definition ng preferred stock. Okay? So if you have preferred stock, you have higher claim on assets and earnings than the common share. Okay? Then lastly, amount of dividend. Okay? So sa common stock, it depends on the profits made and company's decision. Okay? Sa preferred stock, dividends are paid at a fixed rate. Okay? So yung difference between common stock and preferred stock. Okay? So let's have some examples for us to clearly understand the concepts of stocks. Okay? Let's have example number 1. So a certain financial institution declared a 25 million dividend for the common stocks. If there are a total of 600 shares of common stock, so how much is the dividend per share? Okay, so we will be determining first the given in the problem. Okay, so the total dividend is equal to 25 million pesos. The total shares, okay, of common stock is 600,000. So we are required to determine the dividend per share. Okay, now to solve or to determine the dividend per share, we will be using the formula dividend per share divided by the total dividend divided by the total shares. So this will be 25 million divided by 600 will yield a dividend per share of 41.67 pesos. So therefore, in example 1, the dividend per share is 41.67 pesos. Okay. For example 2, a certain corporation declared a 2% dividend on a stock with a par value of 500 pesos. So Mrs. Magdalena owns 150 pesos or 150 shares of stock with a par value of 500 pesos. So how much is the dividend she received? Okay. So also, let's determine first the given. So the dividend rate is 2%. The par value is 500 pesos. Okay. The number of shares is 150. Yun yung share ni Miss Magdalena. Then we are required to determine the dividend. Okay. Mrs. Magdalena received. So we have the dividend. Then for the formula, all we have to do is to multiply the dividend rate, the par value, and the number of shares. Okay, so please take note of the following formulas that we are discussing in this lecture video. Okay, now for the solution, so yun nga sabi ko, imumultiply lang natin yung dividend rate, yung par value, and the number of share. So we have this one. Okay, so the rate is 2% or 0.02 times 500 pesos times number of shares, which is equal to 150, will give us a dividend of 1,500. Okay? So therefore, the dividend Mrs. Magdalena received is 1,500 pesos. Okay? Now, let's have example 3. If you have any questions regarding the examples being presented in this lecture video, feel free to comment, okay, in the comment section of this video, or you may also ask your teachers about statistics, or you may clarify this with them. Okay? So we have, for example, 3, Corporation Alpha with current market value of 72 pesos gave a dividend of 11 pesos per share for its common stock. Okay? So the Corporation Beta with the current market value of 100 pesos gave a dividend of 13 pesos per share. So use the stock yield ratio to measure how much dividend shareholders are getting in relation to the amount invested. Okay? So let's have first the computation for Corporation Alpha. So the given here are the market value of 72 pesos and the dividend per share, which is equal to 11 pesos. Okay? For Corporation Beta, the given are the market value of 100 pesos and the dividend per share of 13 pesos per share. Okay? The formula that we will be using on both corporation is the stock yield ratio, which is equal to the dividend per share divided by the market value. Okay? So we have for corporation alpha, so the stock yield ratio or the required is the stock yield ratio. Okay? So both corporation requires the stock yield ratio. Kasi in this case, we'll be able to determine um, which company is um, more beneficial to invest. Okay? Alin ba or saan ba mas um, wais na mag-invest ng pera natin? Kay Corporation Alpha ba or kay Corporation B? Okay? Sige, let's have the solution. So for Corporation Alpha, the stock yield ratio is equal to 11 over 72. Yung 11 ay yung um, dividend per share. And yung 72 sa denominator natin is actually the market value of the stock. Okay? So computing 11 over 2 will give us the value of 0.1528 or 15.28%. Okay? Now for Corporation B, the solution is 13 over 100. Yung 100 is the market value of this corporate beta. And yung 13 is the dividend per share of the common stock. Okay? So we have 0.13 or 13%. Okay? So in this case, we have okay, so conclusion, therefore, the stock yield ratio of Corporation Alpha is 15.28%, while the stock yield ratio of Corporation Beta is 13%. Okay? Thus, each peso would mean or would earn you 2.28% more, okay, if you invest in Corporation A than in Corporation B. Okay? So, kasi um, mas malaki yung stock yield ratio ni Corporation Alpha compared to Corporation Beta. Okay? Yung difference ng stock yield ratio nila is 2.28%. Okay? Now, if you will be investing sa Corporation Alpha, merong additional na 2.28%, okay, or mas mataas ng 2.28% yung magiging return of investment kapag kay Corporation Alpha ka nag-invest. Okay? But if all other things are equal, then actually it is wiser to invest in corporation. Okay? So yun lang yung titingnan ninyo. Kaya saan ba mas mataas? Okay? Yung stock yield ratio. Kung alin yung mas mataas, edi doon kayo mag-invest. Okay? So if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Okay? Now let's have the definition of terms in bonds. Okay? So we have, so bond is an interest-bearing security which promises to pay, one, a stated amount of money on the maturity date, and second, regular interest payments called the coupons. Okay? So kung doon sa mga, or referring to, or comparing to the topics that we have discussed previously, like the simple and compound interest, simple and general annuities, yung regular interest payments dito sa stocks or sa bonds, particularly, ang tawag ay coupons. Okay? So, naiba yung term. Then, we also have, okay, yung definition ng coupon is the periodic interest payment that the bondholder receives during the time between purchase date and maturity date. Okay? Then, this is usually received semi-annually. Okay? So, meron siyang fixed na interval payment or payment of interval. Okay? Then we also have the coupon rate. So this is the rate per coupon payment period. Okay? So siya yung pinapatong doon sa coupons na meron ka. Then last, or we have the price of a bond, which is denoted by P. So this is the price of the bond at purchase time. Okay? So ito yung price ng bond kung kailan mo siya binili. We also have the par value or face value is the amount payable on the maturity date. Okay? So sa par value, if the value of the price is equal to the par value or the face value, the bond is purchased at par. Okay? Now, if the price is less than the par value or the face value, then the bond is purchased at a discount. Okay? Now, if the price of the bond is greater than the par value or the face value, then the bond is purchased at premium. Okay? So, yun lang yung mga tandaan. Also, we have the term of the bond. So, this is the fixed period of time, okay, in years at which the bond is redeemable as stated in the bond certificate. It is also the number of years from time of purchase to maturity date. So, kailan ba? Okay? Or hanggang kailan yung term? Okay, of the investment or loan. Also, we have the fair price of the bond. So, this is the present value of all cash flows to the bond. Okay? Now, let us understand clearly the bond. Okay, so for example, the government allotted, say, 1 billion for education. Specifically, ito yung perang, or yung 1 billion, yun yung perang binigay nila para sa DepEd to improve schools, provide the necessities or the necessary materials needed by the teachers or the schools. Okay? Now, even the government allotted this money, okay, kahit pa nag-reserve sila ng 1 billion na pera para sa DepEd, okay, this does not actually mean that the government has this money, itong 1 billion na to. Okay? Hindi nangangahulugan na kahit nag-alat ng pera yung gobyerno natin sa mga particular sector na meron tayo sa gobyerno. Hindi nangangahulugan na merong ganung pera yung gobyerno. Okay? This actually, yung bonds actually gives the government ang idea kung saan utang or saan utangin or saan pupunin yung 1 billion para maitustos doon sa particular sector na nilaanan nila ng pera. Okay? Kaya, di ba, ang dami ng utang yung Pilipinas. Okay? So, some of the reasons kung bakit madaming utang ng Pilipinas is because of this. Okay, we have some bonds. Okay, so yeah, let's have some examples for us to clearly understand the concept of bonds. Okay, so determine the amount of semi-annual coupon for a bond with a face value of 450,000 pesos that pays 10% payable semi-annually for its coupons. Okay, so the given are the face value, which is equal to 450,000 pesos. The coupon rate, which is equal to 10%. Then we are required to determine the amount of semi-annual coupon. Okay? Since semi-annual yung sinabi dito, ang gagawin muna natin, okay, is to determine the 10%, okay, of 450,000 pesos. Then afterwards, since ang required sa atin dito ay yung semi-annual coupon, so yung makukuha nating 10% na 10% ng 450, i-divide ulit natin sa okay, anong ibig sabihin? Let's have the solution. Okay? So the annual coupon amount, okay, kasi annual, okay? The annual coupon amount is equal to 450,000 pesos times 10% ng coupon rate. Okay? This will give us the annual coupon amount of 45,000 pesos. Now, since you are required to determine the amount of semi-annual coupon, okay, yung 45,000 pesos, i-divide, ay i-multiply natin by 1. Since ang hinahanap natin yung semi-annual coupon, yung amount ng semi-annual. So in this case, the semi-annual coupon amount is 22,500. Okay? So kapag tinanong kayo ng what is the amount of semi-annual coupon, pwede niyong idiretso na yung pag-multiply. You have face value times the coupon rate times 1. Okay? So yun po yung formula if you are asked to determine the amount of semi-annual. Okay? So take note, the coupon rate is used only for computing the coupon amount. Okay? And it's usually paid semi-annually. But it is not the rate at which the money flows. Hindi po yung coupon rate, ano po? Yung coupon rate is only used to compute the coupon amount that is paid semi-annually. Pero hindi, yung coupon rate, hindi siya yung basis kung gaano lumalaki yung pera mo or yung interest na pinapatong sa investment or loan. Okay? Now, the market value, however, reflects the current market conditions and is used to compute the present value of the future. Okay? So let us now move on to market indices and market indices for stocks and bonds. Let's have first the stock market index, the stock market index. Okay, so stock market index is the measure of portion of the stock market. So for example, the PSE Composite Index or PSEI, which is composed of 30 companies who were carefully selected to represent the general movement of market prices. The up and down movement in the percent change over time indicates how the index is performed. Okay? These 30 companies na na-mention dito sa PSE Composite Index is actually determined by the Philippine Stock Exchange. Okay? Sila yung organization or yung pinaka-head na pumipili ng companies that will represent, okay, the PSE Composite Index. Sila din yung nag-manage or nagdidikta ng either pagtaas o pagbaba ng movement sa stock market index natin. Okay? So we have the sector indices. These indices, or these are indices that represents a particular sector such as the financial institutions, industrial corporations, holding firms, service corporations, mining and oil and property. Okay? Your property corporations. Okay? Now, the stock index can be a standard by which investors can compare the performance of their stocks. Okay? So a financial institution may want to compare its performance with the others. And this can be done by comparing it with the financials index. Okay? Or itong mga particular sectors natin. Okay? We also have the stock market tables. Kung mapapansin nyo, we have here the index. Okay, yung index na tinutukoy natin, siya yung mga um, sectors. Okay? Na nagda-direct kung tataas ba or bababa yung market index natin. So we have here the PSEI. So all shares, financials, industrials, holding firms, property, services, mining, and oil. Okay? So the value, yung second column, okay? The value refers to the value of the index per sector. Okay? Then we have the change column. So change column or change is the change of index or of the index value from the previous trading day. Okay? So sabi dito, the difference between the value today and the value yesterday. So kino-compare siya. Okay po. Then we have the percentage change. So this is the ratio of change to value or change divided by the value. Okay? So makikita nyo yung mga stock market tables sa website na Philippine Stock Exchange. Okay? And usually, the stock market indices or yung mga index are reported just like yung sinabi ko kanina, either sa website ng Philippine Stock Exchange or sa mga dyaryo in the business sections or even the magazines or as well as online. Okay? Kapag sinerch mo siya, lalabas din naman siya. Okay? Kapag online mong sinek. Or sabi ko nga, you can always check the website of the Philippine Stock Exchange. Okay? So this stock market table was as of November 9, 2021. Okay? So ito yung ano nila. And the market is still open. Hindi ko lang sure ngayon kung closed na siya. Right? Sige, let's have the stock tables para mas maintindihan natin yung mga nasa stock tables. Okay? We have itong sa stock. Okay? Ang gagamitin natin dito, yung heading, okay, ng bawat column. And yun yung gagamitin natin to explain. Ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng 52-week high, 52-week low, yung stock, yung high, low, yung div, yung volume, close, and exchange. Okay? Then these two rows will serve as the examples. Okay? Explain natin isa-isa. So stock, we have the triple A. Okay? So the heading stock is a 3-letter symbol which the company used for trading. So we have here as an example yung triple A or AA. Okay? Or yung sa second row, yung B, B, B. Okay? Then we also have the 52-week high. Okay? This column for the heading 52-week high is the highest selling price of the stock in the past 52 weeks. Okay? So in this example, the highest price at which AAA stock traded during the past 52 weeks was 94 pesos. Okay? Next is the 52-week low. So the heading 52-week low is the lowest price of the stock in the past 52 weeks. Now, for example, the lowest price at which AAA stock traded during the past 52 weeks was 44 pesos. Okay? So I hope nakakasabay. Ano po? Then we also have the column high. The heading high is the highest selling price of the stock on the last trading day. Okay, so in this case, yung example natin, the selling price of AAA stock on the last trading day was 60 pesos. Okay? So, meron na kayong idea kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng column na low. Okay? So, the heading low is the lowest selling price of the stock on the last trading day. So, the selling price of AAA stock on the last trading day was 35.5 pesos. Okay? Then, yung div or yung dividend, okay, the heading div is the dividend per share last year. Okay? So, the dividend per share last year of AAA stock was 0.7. Okay? Now, for the volume or yung vol na 100 shares, okay? Yung volume, the heading volume is the number of shares in hundreds traded in the last trading day. So in this case, as our example, stock AAA sold 2,050 shares of 100, which is equal to 205,000 shares. Okay? So yan po yung ibig sabihin ng vol. Okay, so sa close, or the heading close is the closing price on the last trading days. So the closing stock or the closing price of stock AAA in the last trading day was 57.29 pesos. Okay? Then yung net change, the heading net change or net CHG is the net change between the last 2 days trading or the last 2 trading days. Okay, the last 2 trading days. In the case of stock AAA, the net change is 0.10. So the closing price of the day before the last trading days is 57.29 minus 0.10 is equal to 57.9. So yung net change or yung value na, okay, is 57.90. Applying the net change of 0.10. Okay? So I hope malinaw yung stock tables natin. At least if you will be encountering such tables or kung i-invest kayo or bibili kayo ng mga shares in a particular company, at least you will be able to know, okay, these things. Okay? Now, the question now is, how do we buy or sell stocks? Okay? Paano ba tayo bibili? Paano tayo nagbibenta stocks? So, in this case, looking at the table, okay, the first row under bid, this one, okay, the first row under bid means that there are a total of 122 traders. Okay? Merong 122 tao or kumpanya na gustong bumili, okay, ng share worth or a total of 354,100 shares at a price of 21.60. Okay? So, merong 122 traders na gustong bumili ng 354,100 shares at a price of 21.60 per share. Okay? So, yan yung bid. So, bibili. Okay? dito sa ask or offer na column, okay? So the first row under ask or offer means that there is just one trader, okay, who is willing to sell, okay, his or her 20,000 share at a price of 21.80 share. Okay? Sa ask or offer, merong isang trader na gustong ipagbili yung 20,000 na shares niya at a price of 21.80 pesos. Okay? So the bid size is the number of individual buy orders and the total number of shares they wish to buy. The bid price is the price that buyers are willing to pay for the stock. Ask price is the price that the sellers of the stocks are willing to sell the stock. And the ask size is the number of individuals whose sell orders have been placed in an online platform and the total number of shares the sellers wish to sell. Okay? So sa bid price, ibig sabihin, bibili. Okay, bibili sila. There are 122 traders who wish to buy 354,100 shares at a price of 21.60. Okay? Yung bid, sila yung buyer. Dito sa ask or offer, there is one trader who wish to sell 20,000 shares, okay? Or his 20,000 shares at the price of 21.80. Okay? So that is how we buy and sell stocks. Okay? So we have here, yung sinasabi ko kanina, there are 122 traders who wish to buy a total of 354,100 shares at a price of 21.60 per share. Okay? Now, in this case, ulitin ko lang, ano po? In this case, on the other hand, sa ask column, so there is one trader who is willing to sell his or her 20,000 shares at a price of 21.80 per share. Okay? So yun po yung way on how we buy and sell stocks. Okay? So we have yun yung sa stock market indices. For bonds, sa bond market index, so this is the measure of portion of the bond market. Okay? So the main platform for bonds or fixed income securities in the Philippines is the Philippine Dealing and Exchange Corporation. So kung sa stocks, we have the Philippine Stocks Exchange. Sa bond market index, we have the Philippine Dealing and Exchange Corporation or yung PDEX. Okay? So bonds and government bonds. So government bonds are sold out to banks and other brokers and dealers every Monday by the Bureau of Treasury. So it depends on their terms or tenors. Okay? These bonds are also called treasury bills or T-bills, treasury notes or T-notes, then the treasury bonds or T-bonds. Okay? Now on the day right after the auction, the news agencies normally reports the resulting coupon rates and the total amount sold for these bonds. Okay? So ito yung ginagamit, sabi ko kanina sa discuss natin yung bonds, ito yung ginagamit ng government. Okay? Na say for example, nag-allot sila ng say 1 billion for DepEd. Okay? Pero there is no assurance na merong ganong halaga yung gobyerno. Okay? So ginagamit nila itong bonds na meron. Ang bond market at yung gobyerno. Okay? Now, let's have an example. So Tina owns 2,000 shares of a company A at 980,000 or 980 pesos per share. she also owns 15,000 shares of, or for company B at 250,000 per share. So in which company is the total value of her share greater? Or ang tanong lang naman is, saan mas malaki yung return of investment ni Tina? Okay, sa company A ba or sa company B? Sa company A, wherein meron siyang 2,000 shares at 980 per share. Then sa company B, meron siyang 15,000 shares, pero yung price ng share ay 250 pesos. Okay? Sige, let's check. So company A, number of shares times selling price is equal to total price. So we have 2,000 times 980 is equal to 1,960,000 pesos. For company B, so still number of shares times selling price is equal to total price. So 15,000 shares times 250 is equal to 3,750,000 pesos. So kung papansinin natin yung total price for company A and company B, mas malaki yung total price kay company B. Okay? So in this case, therefore, the greater value of her share is in company B with 15,000 share at 250,000 per share, where the total value is 3,750,000 pesos. So mas malaki yung return of investment ng company B compared kay company. Though, pwede nating or sabihin na though 980 pesos yung per share sa company A, mas malaki or mas madami pa din naman yung share ni Tina sa company B. Compare mo yung 2,000 na share ni Tina sa company A na meron siya for company B which is equal to 15,000. 'Di ba? Medyo mas madami ng 13,000 yung share sa company B compared sa company. Okay? So that is all for the discussion about stocks and bonds. So I hope that you learned something from this lecture video. Okay po. So again, these are the learning objectives, and I hope that we were able to discuss all of the learning objectives that we have for this lesson. Now, if you still have any questions or clarifications about this topic, you may just comment down below the video, or you may also ask your teachers about stocks and bonds for you to be clarified with all the concepts that we have under this lesson. So that's all. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.